And welcome to Undercover, and welcome to Lee Kernaghan. It's good to have you back.
Great to be with you, mate.
At Planet Undercover to talk about Planet Country, hey, the new album out there. And quite a long time in the making, huh? 2 years.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to come out in 2008, I was given that wonderful honour of the Australian of the Year award, which was it took blew me away. But I realised then that I couldn't continue on with making the album and touring and doing what I had to do. I had other duties and a role to fulfil. So I took pretty well a year off touring, but the good thing was that it was a real insight into what the beating heart of what was going on around rural Australia and regional Australia, and I came back with a whole lot of new ideas for the song, for the album. So the album that I would have released in 2008 would have been totally different to Planet Country.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Was it actually recorded or written?
It was pretty well written, but we didn't record any of those songs, except I think I Milk Cows.
Yeah.
That stayed.
Okay, we'll talk about that song a bit later on.
Yeah.
But actually getting that honour, as Australian of the Year, obviously did give you an insight into the Australian psyche that you wouldn't have had before.
Well, it did, because I travelled around the country going to drought-stricken communities, but we had family days out there, and where the whole community got together, and in some of those areas that have been battered by drought, just giving people a reason to get together and talk is really healing. So they were really important days, and a real privilege for me to be taken into people's lives the way they took me in.
Because that wasn't the first honour, wasn't it? It was a really big honour that happened for you back in the early 90s.
Which one?
The Order?
Oh, yes.
You've forgotten about that one already.
I was thinking, maybe it was a gold guitar or something. Yeah. It was good. But look, really, the thing that I've learnt, mate, and I'll be absolutely upfront and fair dinkum about this, there's so many people who work behind the scenes, and when you think about the volunteers and the firefighters and people who are working in little country towns helping elderly citizens and doing stuff like that and really going the extra mile, they deserve all these accolades, not the country singers running around like I am.
Yeah. Looking back at the history, it's interesting looking at how the career of Lee Kernaghan came about, wasn't it? Because there was that talent quest that happened in the 80s, and then nothing for like this 10-year period.
Yeah.
Were you concerned about the career at that stage?
I was devastated. I won the Star Maker Award in 1982, which was the same one that Keith Urban won, and James Blundell, and I think Gina Jeffries won it. So that was, fantastic, but nothing happened after that. The best thing that came out of it was that I signed a publishing deal, and my publisher sent me to Nashville, and I caught up with a bloke called Wally Wilson, a staff writer at Tree Publishing, and Bob Montgomery, who ran Tree Publishing, did some recording with me and took me under his wing, and they proceeded to teach me the craft of lyric writing. That's been a very important part of what I do over the years, I suppose. What I've done over the years.
I guess in that gap, that 80s to 90s gap before Boys in the Bush came along and sort of changed history for you, but it got down to a real low, didn't it? I mean, you've talked about one show in particular where no one turned up.
Mate, it's burnt into my brain. The Carrier's Arms, Wodonga. I saw the ad was in the paper, so I've got no criticism against the hotel with the marketing. They got that right, and loaded in the gear and set up. It was just a solo sort of show, but by 8 o'clock, nobody had turned up. By 9, nobody had turned up. By 10:30, the publican said, "Lee, pack up, mate, you can go home."
Yeah, but I noticed where you'd stated previously, not even your mum turned up.
Oh, no one. No, not even my mates.
Was she meant to be turning up?
No, no. It might have been even more embarrassing if she'd turned up.
Yeah. So then, Boys in the Bush comes along. What a massive hit that is, and I guess it's one of those songs that can you leave that out of a set these days?
I think I've accidentally done it once, but no, it's got to be in there. It's just one out of the bag. How it came about, Garth Porter, my record producer, said, Lee, look, you've got these songs, but they're okay, but I want you to start writing songs about your life and where you come from and your own experiences and your mates and just your life. And I said, but I can give that a try, Garth, but I don't think anybody would be very interested in that. And he said, well, look, you go back to Albury and do some more work on that. So we did, and that's when Boys from the Bush was written, and the Outback Club and High Country. And it seemed as if that when Boys from the Bush was written, it almost like these doors just opened, and I thought, man, the possibilities here are endless. You know, to be able to write songs about people I know and experiences I've had, and you know, it was just a whole new world opened up.
Because you know, it's quite amazing, isn't it? Because the Garth Porter relationship exists to this day, and Garth's very much part of you know, the new album here.
Yeah.
But you know, like if anybody had thought of taking a member of a pop, almost a glam pop band of the 70s, and teaming him with a country guy and it becoming successful, you'd go, nah, never would have happened.
Yeah.
You know, was that a case of opposites attracting?
Well, no, not really, because Garth grew up on a dairy farm in New Zealand, so he, you know, pretty strong country roots there. But he went down the pop road, and he has great sensibility in terms of what works in terms of songs and structure and making albums. So he's a wonderful producer, but you know, I think of him as like, you know, the great saviour, the great white knight, because until Garth Porter came along, country music records in Australia were probably just, I guess, they didn't really have any traction with mainstream audiences, except for the odd big hit from Slim or Willow. But he came along and he started producing James Blundell, and man, did James Blundell kick down the doors. He kicked down those doors and opened up a whole new genre, really. Country music, Australian country music that was country, but it rocked, and the mainstream media loved it. And so it was like a renaissance for country music at that point.
Because how do you actually peg yourself? It's not country and western, it is, you know, country rock, or, you know.
Yeah. I'll just call it country, you know. Yeah. But, you know, it's Australian music, what we do. We've got some of the greatest musicians, you know, in the world that play, you know, right here in this country. And I've found that more and more so as I've recorded in America. And to give you an example, Planet Country, the solo was played by Glenn Hanna out of Sydney. And when I sent it over to Nashville to do the overdubbing, we brought in the greatest guitar players on the planet and let them have a crack at outgunning Glenn Hanna on that guitar solo. And try as hard as they may, they couldn't pull the tone, and they just couldn't match it for the melodic and ripping approach that Glenn did. So fly the flag for Australia, you know, it's a great thing.